Don't freak out, y'all. Hello, Internet. I'm Jackie Fox, and today we're going to talk about 3 different political approaches to dealing with a pandemic.
In the space of 3 weeks, I've gone from asking questions like, how do we pay for certain policies, to retweeting tweets from the likes of Bernie Sanders and...
So I don't know about you, but this whole pandemic has been pretty wild so far. We have seen so many people going so mask off.
The healthcare system and other critical industries should be nationalized. We can't wait around hoping the free market will get its act together on gowns and masks and ventilators and other absolutely essential supplies. Hospitals are going to go bankrupt if the government doesn't effectively take them over. It's not even temporary socialism we need, but basically temporary communism. Citizens supported by the government. Major sections of the economy planned by the government. Because 30% unemployment isn't something you bootstrap and free market your way through.
Like, this crisis has shown us exactly how people feel. Like, tell me how you really feel.
This will, I think, be the true stimulus for a real populist uprising again.
Yeah.
Because you can't have it happen twice. And you can't have people lose their houses twice. You just can't.
Tell me how you really feel.
True. You said something 20 minutes ago that I'm sure a lot of people were pretty keen on. You said that we would, I'm paraphrasing now, you would like to be back to normal by Easter Sunday.
Yes.
That's 19 days from now.
It's okay.
Is that true? Is that possible? Or is
I
that
think
false
it's possible. Why isn't it? I mean, we've never closed the country before, and we've had some pretty bad flus, and we've had some pretty bad viruses, and I think it's absolutely possible. And again, the cure, it's like this cure is worse than the problem.
Tell me about the corruption. Tell me about how horrible it is out there. Tell me about all the backroom deals. Hell, you could even tell me that they're trying to keep the votes private so that the American people can't know who voted on what during this time of crisis.
Well, they didn't even give me a minute to speak in a 4-hour debate. There's a big cover-up in there.
You believe it's a cover-up, sir?
Well, they're trying to cover up their votes. They had enough people there to pass the bill, but they still refused to have a recorded vote. And they told me they were trying to protect members.
Don't you believe that that's the case? There's 435 members in a room that can't hold that many.
No. They're trying to protect the members who are there from political ramifications.
And one of the reasons for that is a lot of them are also being primaried during the election season.
These primaries are only going to continue to happen because Senator Sanders is going to stay in the race, even if he does have a de facto insurmountable lead. And so it will be his decision that forces these very difficult public health decisions on all of these states in terms of whether or not to go ahead with these primaries if there is no hope of him really seriously challenging for the nomination.
You're so right to say that.
And it's a terrible thing to say.
Yeah.
It is.
Tell me how you really feel.
Rachel Maddow is saying that Bernie Sanders has blood on his hands, or will have blood on his hands, unless he drops out of the primary. But a few interesting points about this. As Rachel Maddow, because she's a Rhodes Scholar and a very intelligent person, we've always maintained that on this show, as she knows, now, to be fair, Brian Williams may not know this because he is not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but Rachel Maddow knows that when the primaries in the United States are not just about presidential elections, right? So let's say Bernie Sanders were to drop out. I'm not sure if she's proposing that no other primary races for Congress, governor, whatever, mayor, state level things, assembly people. I don't know if she thinks that those are also going to be canceled. I mean, right? This is when I saw that, I was like, maybe she didn't know about the latest CDC adjustment update, but it was mentioned during the debate, which presumably, ostensibly she watched, and she's responding literally to a question from Chris Cuomo, where he says the CDC has said not 50 people or more, and he says that's virtually every polling place, right?
CDC says no groupings bigger than 50. That's like every polling station, except in very small counties. the idea of delaying primaries. Senator Sanders seemed comfortable with that. We should listen to what the CDC says. Delay the primaries if we have to. What are your concerns?
Well, look, Chris, I want to be very clear. Democracy is extremely important. And in times of war, in times of strife, our country has always upheld the need to uphold our democracy. We have voted in war times. We have, votes were held many times in this country after, again, times of strife. So the reality is that the CDC has, in fact, yes, issued guidance that has told people to keep their social distancing, not to gather in large crowds. And governors across the country, particularly in the states that vote on Tuesday, Ohio, Arizona, Florida, Illinois, they have said that they feel comfortable and are confident that the elections will not only be safe, but that they can carry them out. And so I am looking to these governors, frankly, to abide by this CDC guidance. And if they say that they can administer this process, we believe them, frankly. So a number of early votes, though, Chris, have already been cast.
Right.
I was looking at some stuff today that said Florida's early vote numbers are tracking ahead of what they were in 2016. So I just encourage folks to use your voice. Your vote is your voice, and our democracy is extremely important. And even in times of strife in this country, we have to do our duty. So
there's no question that she knew about this update. So when she said that, it's like, I don't know if is that objectively a lie?
And that's what brings us to the three political styles that we've seen, because as a part of this, the first of the three political styles I want to discuss today was Bernie Sanders putting his heart and soul into voting for expanding unemployment insurance during this time of crisis.
What the American people want right now is for us to use our taxpayer dollar in every way that we can to protect the working families of this country, to protect the middle class, to protect the 50% of our people who are living paycheck to paycheck. And as we speak tonight, half of our people in this country, in the richest country in the history of the world, are living paycheck to paycheck.
Now, as I'm writing this, we have around 3.5 million unemployed people last I checked. It's probably much more than that, especially because this was a one-day number, and most of the people applied on the same day, such that the unemployment offices actually were struggling to keep up with them and had to turn a lot of people away. So there's actually probably far more unemployed people than that. Maybe 5 or more million Americans do not have jobs. And that is only going to get higher as states like my own start issuing stay-at-home orders. They're happening all over the country right now, and it's absolutely the right choice to make. And we need to be able to stay at home for as long as possible to flatten the curve, because even if we do a good job here for 2 weeks, what if somewhere else in the world doesn't do a good job? You saw how quickly it spread over here. What if it spreads again from another place? Because we've gotten comfortable, because we have put ourselves in a situation where none of us can afford to take a couple months off work. But Bernie Sanders has gotten you $9,600 to stay out of work for 4 months.
I want this thing passed as soon as possible. What happened is Senator Graham and some other Republicans, they are just terribly upset that low-income workers might receive a bit more money than they otherwise would have earned. Here we are in the midst of the worst economic downturn perhaps since the Great Depression. Tens of millions of people are worried to death about how they're going to feed their families, pay their rent, prevent a foreclosure. And these guys are just staying up nights, worrying about low-income workers getting a few bucks more. And what I have said is if they are prepared to drop their hold, which I believe they are, by the way, I am certainly not going to persist in what I want. But I just wanted to make it clear that I will not sit back, nor should anybody sit back and allow these guys to attack the needs of low-income workers, especially at a time when in this particular bill, there are $500 billion available to the president for all kinds of corporate welfare and chicanery. They don't object to that. They worry about the working people getting a few bucks more.
And this, for the first time ever, unemployment insurance actually covers gig workers and independent contractors.
One of the things this bill does do is provide the largest expansion of unemployment benefits in history, expending about $250 billion of federal funds. And what it does, importantly, the bill understands that for all kinds of absurd reasons having to do with Republican attacks on workers for many years, fewer than 50% of American workers today are eligible for unemployment benefits. What this bill does is says, rightly so, that in the midst of this terrible economic crisis where some people, nobody knows, where some economists are estimating that by June, the end of next quarter, unemployment could be 20 or 30%. What this bill does say is that whether or not you are eligible for unemployment today, you're going to get unemployment compensation. And that means many of the gig workers, people who drive Uber cars, many of the waitresses and waiters who make starvation minimum wages, many so-called independent contractors, they will be eligible for the extended unemployment benefit. That is exactly the right thing.
Your Uber driver guy, your Grubhub driver girl, all of these types of people in the gig economy are being covered by unemployment insurance for the first time ever, purely because Bernie Sanders put his full weight into fighting for it.
When you hear Lindsey Graham saying incentivizing people not to work, I mean, I know a bunch of people are out of work, and the only thing they want is to get back to work right now.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, it's just it is amazing to me that you have all kinds of people here who voted, including Senator Graham and the others. They voted for $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large corporations, and now they're really worried that a low-income worker might receive extended unemployment plus $600 a week. Oh my goodness, how terrible is that? It's hard for me to understand that kind of value system and that kind of mentality. What they're going to do, as I understand it, they're going to bring that thing up as an amendment. They have to get 60 votes. They're not going to get 60 votes. That'll be the end of it, and hopefully we can vote for this thing tonight.
Do you think it'll get voted on tonight?
That's what I'm hearing, although, who knows. But I am hearing that, yeah.
You all get $9,600, and that's just the unemployment insurance. This is the biggest part of the economic aspect of this crisis.
Are you crazy,
And yet Bernie Sanders is the only person who seems to notice it. Some Republicans looked at this like it was some glitch, some accounting error, like it couldn't possibly be good enough that, oh my God, it would encourage people not to go to work for 4 months. But not to quit, because you can't get unemployment insurance if you quit. You have to get laid off. So it only protects people who are laid off. Something that Lindsey Graham actually knows and said a few days before that. And then we've got all the Republicans who are telling us that we have to get back to work soon, not least of all our president.
I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators. You go into major hospitals sometimes, they'll have 2 ventilators, and now all of a sudden they're saying, can we order 30,000 ventilators?
But some people were even more revealing in the way that they worded this.
And Tucker, no one reached out to me and said, as a senior citizen, are you willing to take a chance on your survival in exchange for keeping the America that all America loves for your children and grandchildren? And if that's the exchange, I'm all in. And that doesn't make me noble or brave or anything like that. I just think there are lots of grandparents out there in this country, like me, I have 6 grandchildren, that what we all care about and what we love more than anything are those children. And I want to, live smart and see through this, but I don't want the whole country to be sacrificed. And that's what I see.
Great message. If you're a good and loving grandparent, you should be willing to sacrifice your life for the good of the New York Stock Exchange and the economy and the dollar and all that. I mean, that's basically what he's saying is most old people would be willing to die to make sure the economy doesn't collapse.
The president yesterday talked about seeing light at the end of the tunnel, wanted packed churches for Easter. Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, I think back to, I think it was November of 1967, General Westmoreland talking about, light at the ends of tunnels and the war dragged on for many years after that.
Anderson, this is even worse than that. You have all over the world countries, obviously including our own, New York, Washington State, the whole country, dealing with a pandemic, with a huge increase in the number of people who are infected, people who are dying. And what all of the experts tell us is that we need to distance ourselves from each other. In many states now, people are being asked to stay home. Congregations should not be any larger than 2 or maybe 10 people, and keep your distance. And you are talking about a president who is speaking in opposition to all of the major medical advisors in our own government and in this country. Oh yeah, come to church on Easter, sit next to somebody else. Why don't you spread the virus so that we'll never get rid of this pandemic? You know, you got a president who is arrogant, who is ignorant, who is self-centered. And to me, I mean, this is as dangerous as he gets in suggesting people to defy what the healthcare experts are telling us. So this is a dangerous moment for him.
Yeah, they pretty much want you to die so that they can keep lining their pockets. They're like, this is based. This is mask off to like the nth degree. This is masked off pandemic remix. Okay? Wow. They really want you to die. Because notice a lot of these old men, these professional old men with their millions of dollars and probably like double platinum level healthcare insurance that they can afford because they're so wealthy, they have really nothing to worry about. They're going to get tested. Hell, they'll probably get tested before Joe Biden.
Have you been tested for the coronavirus?
No, I have not been tested for the coronavirus. I've had, thank God, no symptoms that I'm aware of. Doesn't mean that that can't happen.
Which brings me to the third perspective. The, oh shit, I need to get out of here. I think I have coronavirus. Have you noticed that Joe Biden has been coughing a lot lately? Like, a lot.
Up for the next round of primaries, including...
I have not talked to any individual. Excuse me.
You know, you're supposed to cough into your elbow. I don't know, sir. I learned that actually covering your White House.
Actually, that's true, but fortunately I'm alone in my home, but that's okay.
I think he took like some cough syrup like right before the debate, and it didn't kick in for a while because the very beginning of the coronavirus footage looked like this.
And that means we have to do testing.
Yeah, that was just a couple of minutes.
We did that. We've been through this before with the coronavirus. I see my time is up here. You're going to hold us tightly, I assume.
And that's a lot of coughs. It was even worse recently on TV.
And of social distancing.
Well, I'm doing fine, thank you. And I think we've been
public. But first, in this crisis,
I'd like
spoke earlier. He's talking.
And he keeps touching his nose too, and just getting into these weird rambles, which he apologizes for in this really strange way.
Tell you what, I'm so darn proud. And those poor people who have lost, anyway, it's just.
I mean, maybe it's like the cough medicine fucking with him. Like, I really don't want to chain together a bunch of senior moments and say the man has dementia or anything, but like, maybe he's on a lot of cough medicine right now. He seems to be pretty sick. I don't want to say that I absolutely know that Joe Biden has the coronavirus, but
we have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what.
He's definitely sick. He's having some trouble right now. Let's go to an audience question, by the way. Not my audience, somebody's audience, definitely. Dear caller, what do you have to say?
Quick question. At the last Democratic debate, do you think that Joe Biden was on drugs? Not to be hyperbolic, he seemed pretty coherent during that debate, but in subsequent public appearances, he's appeared to be falling apart. So why in the debate was he so together? I don't know. What do you think?
I didn't see that coming, but yeah, apparently this guy is also concerned about the same thing. I wonder if anybody else has an opinion about it.
We're not supposed to do this and speculate, but I'm just going to say I think that Biden, just some kind of amphetamine.
Yeah.
But then there was like an evening out drug they put underneath, right? So, because if they had just cranked him up, he would have been all over the place.
Right.
I think it was like amphetamines cut with like a Haldol or Thorazine, something like that. I mean, it had to be heavy on both sides because he's.
What about someone thought B12 or something also?
Oh, just like a vitamin injection?
Yeah. And then someone else suggested steroids because you asked about this on Twitter. But someone I spoke to in real life, IRL, said he thought that he also was able to, they like had him sleep for days ahead of time.
I mean, he was certainly pretty spirited and very calm in the face of being called a liar repeatedly on national television, when he's been tossed softball questions by literally everyone so far, and people are just, you know, handing him the win at the debate because he didn't go down in flames. I mean, really, the bar has been set incredibly low for Joe Biden so far, and this is the first time he's really gotten attacked by somebody who didn't turn out to be his ally. No matter what else, you've got Donald Trump, who seems to be on the press front lines of this. And the only reason that he's on the front lines in the press, as much as he is because he's Donald Trump. The press can't ignore him. And then you've got Bernie Sanders, who's fighting the hardest for us behind the scenes, and he's nowhere to be seen on the press because he's Bernie Sanders. The press always ignores him. And then you've got Joe Biden, who the press actively wants to like come on their shows. He gets so many invitations, and he's holed up in a basement for a week. Literally holed up in a basement in a mansion that I'm pretty sure is actually worth more than Bernie Sanders' entire declared net worth on the taxes he just submitted. So, yeah. That's not leadership. Oh, and also, while we're talking about this, how is the Biden camp going to respond to this whole Tara Reade thing?
There was no like exchange, really. He just had me up against the wall. It happened all at once. The gym bag, I don't know where it went. I handed it to him, it was gone, and then his hands were on me and underneath my clothes. And yeah, and then he went down my skirt, but then up inside it, and he penetrated me.
Because I tried asking a group online, and yeah, this was the official response from the admin. Yep. I mean, I was curious. Like, how are you gonna... You're just gonna block people who talk about it. Okay, that doesn't seem like a troubling pattern. Yeah. So, America, right? I hope you feel better. I mean, at the very least, there's a very big silver lining for this. We have every incentive to take 4 months off of work and save the country, maybe even save the world. Because Bernie Sanders fought, even when 3 Republicans threatened to hold the whole bill up over that provision, over the unemployment insurance. They were very clear on this. Bernie Sanders continued to fight by putting a hold on their $5 billion, which is more like $4 trillion, but $5 billion on paper slush fund for their big corporate pals. And eventually they held out because they didn't want to lose that just as bad as he didn't want to lose giving us unemployment insurance. That is some big presidential energy. He made congressional Republicans bow down to him. He took power and he wielded it in our favor. Can you imagine what he would do as president? Just think about that. He just walked into Congress like, I'm dealing with a global crisis. I'm not playing right now. I've got a comeback to win. And for us, like, this has got to be the easiest narrative to push just an obvious why Bernie Sanders should be president. Are you unemployed? Are you reaping the benefits of $600 a week unemployment for the next 4 months? Bernie Sanders did that. Bernie Sanders alone did that. Bernie Sanders fought the Democratic Party to do that. Not just the Republicans. Key Democrats were against that proposal as well. But it really shows you who's looking out for you and who everyone else is actually looking out for.
Have to make a choice about who leads this country.
I just can't figure the guy. It's like, I don't know, it's like watching a yo-yo. I shouldn't have said it that way. It's like watching...
It feels that way. I want to ask...
I'm Jackie Fox, and my content will always be ad-free because I'm eschewing corporate donations to the channel. I just ask that if you can donate a little bit of money on Patreon like these fine, foxy folks, or if you want to make a one-time donation, you can donate on Ko-fi. If you're looking for another way to support the channel, I'm also making Fox hats with my logo on them. They are currently in the design phase, and I'm willing to allow people to ask for customized hats. Prices may vary depending on the cost of labor to manufacture them, because I want to make sure that my workers are paid fairly. But I am happy to say that the next few months, if you're a patron who has donated to this channel, I will be counting all of your donations against the cost of your first Fox hat, allowing you to get it at a discount.